There are 3 bands playing: Nighthawk, Truck Stop, and the Rebel Tail Band. And that goes on until the early hours of the morning. So, lots of cowboy hats.
So, as I said early on, there's a big Friday crowd here at the Nürburgring, and they've got lots to see and do because the paddock is absolutely full of trucks. Not only race trucks, but there are the show trucks here as well.
And there's the Nürburgring Castle. They reckon the numbers this weekend is going to go up to near 200,000, which puts it on a par with the 24-hour race. And tonight, if you're anywhere near the ring, don't expect any sleep because the truckers do love their horns. And you can see there's people actually at the top of the Nürburgring Castle there looking at the views, which are absolutely stupendous.
It's an amazing part of the world, this, isn't it? Because there are occasions when it just is quite breathtaking. And there are other occasions where it's breathtaking for the wrong reasons, when it's wet and foggy. I mean, you can go from the Nürburgring 24-hour start in the sunshine to having it red flagged because of the fog the morning after. It's a very odd place.
Well, I've done many laps here where all 4 seasons in 1 lap.
Yeah, I bet.
And my daughter was over last year, and we started in sunshine at the beginning of the lap, and when we got to Schwedenkreuz, there was a whiteout blizzard, and she was really disappointed. But I said, you're in a unique position whereby there's very, very few people who have been through Schwedenkreuz in a blizzard.
So we've got the winning drivers making their way, hopefully shortly, to the podium. Ryan Smith as the race winner, and we'll have the next qualifying session coming up very shortly indeed here at the Nürburgring.
maximal dann sofort im Anschluss daran eine zweite gezeitete Runde. Dann die Auto, ja, und dann, liebe Freunde, sind die 10 Minuten schon fast rum. Du hast einen, maximal 2 Schüsse frei. Und in den letzten Super Poles hatten wir ja immer gesehen, so 10 Fahrer innerhalb von einer Sekunde.
The Go Stop this evening is going to be lively because I think I mentioned earlier on you've got a number of the race trucks in it, so all being well, Dave Jenkins, Heinz-Werner Lenz will be amongst them. Jan van Holland with the Ford, the N700 that we saw earlier on, that's going to be there.
Clement Hecker's going to be there as well.
I think we may have lost 1 or 2 looking at the original entry list, but there's enough to make it an entertaining end to the day, that's for sure. And then you've got all sorts from the AMs, from the working trucks and the real enthusiasts, their moment of glory on track. So we have one timed run from each of the pro trucks and 2 from the AMs. However, we'll come to that in due course, because out onto the circuit rumble the rigs for the qualifying session for the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and this is the main game of the weekend. Now this session is due to get underway in about 3 minutes time, so they'll do a lap from the paddock round into the pit lane and then they'll go from there, but it gives you a chance to see who drives what, including Anthony Janiak in the number 6 Lion Truck Racing MAN.
And they have a huge contingent in the paddock. They've
Yes.
got a massive area.
88 Ryan Smith, we've rather talked about him. 21 there you can see, which is the Thomas Robineau MAN, the man from Le Mans, 3 times a French champion. In 37 is Terry Gibbon for T-Sport, not the Formula 3 T-Sport, but his own truck racing team. Back in the sport after a few years away. And 19 of them we had in competitive trim for FP2, with 22 in total, the slowest of which was Eduardo Rodriguez. But Jochen Hahn will be the man to beat. He is 4 times a champion. He's had 87 race wins, including 4 this year out of 8 races, which is not bad going. So he's won 50% of this season's events. It's the first 10 minutes of this qualifying period that will sort out who goes into the second part for Superpole. So if you're outside the top 10, what you do in this first part is your grid position, but if you get into Superpole, it's your time from the second part that will count. And Norbert Kiss had an engine-related issue in the second free practice session. The rig stopped by the side of the track and there was liquid gushing out of it, so hopefully that can be made good going into this session. So Jochen Hahn has a 31-point advantage over Norbert Kiss at the moment. Reigning champion is Adam Lachko, who's had a bit of an up-and-down season with punctures and brake dramas and whatnot, but the Czech is going to be well worth watching. And the Freightliner, run by the Bagheera team, with a new teammate this year as well, Ollie James, joining the championship. Certainly Adam Lachko is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, Jochen Hahn was certainly setting the pace today earlier, and
Norbert Kish not yet out of the paddock. The team frantically working to try and sort out that truck, but as yet he's not got to the pit lane. Last year, Adam Lachko dominated here. He won all races, but not all 4, because we only had 3. Such was the extent of oil that was spilt in one of the Sunday afternoon races that the event had to be abandoned early, I'm afraid to say. But Adam Lachko had won all 3 up to that point. He won 2 the year before, Jochen Hahn being a winner in 16, and Steffi Halm, the very quick German girl, she also won a race that year. Going back to 2015, Norbert Kish, 2 wins, Antonio Albafetti 1, Adam Lachko 1. Antonio Albafetti a winner in 14. I'm just picking out names that are still in the entry, because you have to go back quite a long, long way to find somebody who doesn't still race. And indeed, back in 2006, Gert Kurber was a winner, and although Gert announced his retirement at the end of last season, he's back in the entry this weekend. We can't keep him away. The green flag waves, out they go. And it is then Jochen Hahn who leads them out. And not only has...
Norbert Kiss is out.
Okay. Yeah, indeed, Norbert Kish out on track.
There's a nice bit of commentating. They sit with two pretty girls under the sunshine.
That is the indefatigable Patrick Simon, who always manages to find the nicer side of life for his motorsport duties. He's no mean racer, Patrick, but he's a very garrulous chap, and he's not working too hard, as you can see, just sitting in the grandstand topping up his tan. Right, so everybody's out on track, and the fascination in all of this is going to be who is on the bubble of the top 10, who gets through, who does not. Adam Lachko, I mentioned a moment ago, has had a season of dramas. He's also had his appendix out since Misano, and he's now fully fit. Hopefully that's going to enable him to be more competitive, because certainly he admitted that he wasn't really match fit. So forget this lap, it's the out lap. It's from the next lap onwards where we'll start to see the times, and if you're first out, track position is absolutely critical. So I mentioned the fact that Jochen Hahn had topped the times in that second session. He must come into this really as the man to beat, it's fair to say.
And there we have Antonio Albacete, number 23. Sport Lutz.
Yeah, Albacete is yet another of the many former champions that we've got on the grid. He's missed a season or so, but came back last year and driving for Lutz Bernau's team, himself a former racer of speed.
And Adam Leko in his Sinner truck, Freightliner.
So one or two of them you can see lifting, others pressing on, trying to gain track position out of all of this as they accelerate up towards the chicane. Others perhaps are just going to try and do one lap, keep the tyres, because you get 6 for qualifying 1, race 1 and race 2, then you get another 6 for the second qualifying session, races 3 and 4, so you don't want to take too much life out. So if you can do this on one banzai effort, and so you've got this slow bicycle race at the moment of everybody trickling up towards the chicane, trying to buy clear track space. So I think to get through into the top 10 here, you're going to do the least slow lap, not the quickest, but the least slow. Right, Jochen Hahn goes for it, so it is this, isn't it? It's one quick lap. Go as late as you dare. It's like a one-shot showdown qualifying from years ago. Over the timing line, yeah, Jochen Hahn comes through, Norbert Kisch behind him. Jochen Hahn, the champion 2 years ago. Behind then you've got 44 look, which is Steffi Hahn. Like many, former car racer, but Jochen Hahn is somebody that came straight from truck racing. His father, Konrad Hahn, used to race. Jochen was part of the pit crew. Dad retired. Jochen stepped up to the plate and has been oh so successful ever since in truck racing when he began in 2000. There is the reigning champion, Adam Lachko. Antonio Albacete behind him, René Reiner, back into the sport this year. He drives 77, the Reiner Logistics company boss. And so with lots of tyre squeal there, pressing on is the Norbert Kisch Mercedes, run by the Tankpool Ferrance Fanzig Racing Squad. But Jochen Hahn's going to be the benchmark driver in all of this then, as he comes in towards the completion of the first sector. Hahn in the Iveco for Sven Walter's team. Jochen Hahn has the entrance license, but it's Sven Walter's squad, the Don't Touch racing team that operates the rig. And here he comes up the curb, almost skims that little floppy marker, which remained intact amazingly throughout the first Mittelrhein Cup race of the afternoon here. So Hahn sets the benchmark in the first sector, quicker than anybody. There is Norbert Kisch behind him. Hahn, 2 purple sectors because he's done the absolute best in sector 1, the absolute best in sector 2. And of course, 10 minutes, if you take out an out lap, doesn't give you much time. It's really only enough for 2 flying laps at most. How's Adam Lachko getting on? Not good enough is the short answer. So Jochen Hahn looks as though he's going to be on target here for pole position, provisionally at least. He's going to get himself into super pole, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Has he got the pace? Let's see to go quicker than anybody. Of course, others don't want to take the life out of their tyres. They're not after the gun time, they're just after getting through. Hahn does a 1:54.847, that's the target. Kisch goes second, Steffi Hahn goes third. What about Adam Lachko as he comes over the timing line? Adam Lachko's lap is a fourth quickest, 1:56. Antonio Albafetti goes fourth ahead of him, in fact. Albafetti does a 55.306. René Reiner goes second, 1:55.229. He's only 3/10 back from Hahn, and here comes the redoubtable Ryan Smith. Fifth fastest he goes. So we've still got lap times to be offered up. Andre Kurzim goes by, Gert Kurber goes through. Shane Brereton, former stock car racer in the UK, a national hot rod racer in the UK. He was 10th, but not anymore, because Jose Rodriguez goes ahead of Anthony Janiek. Janiek drops to 12th. He's got another shot at this. René Reiner could be one to watch if he does another lap, because Reiner did the absolute best in the last sector. So he's got good momentum at the end of the lap, good speed in that rig.
And there's not much of a gap between him and Hahn.
No, you're right, 3/10, that's all there is. 37 over the line, Terry Gibbon. Behind, look, is 22 Ollie James in the second Bagheera, but Reiner, I would suggest, has backed off, actually. There he is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very pedestrian pace.
It is rather, isn't it? René Reiner, winner at the Hungaroring in the last event. Most recent race winner. But I think he's bailed, and so also, by the look of it, has Andre Kurzim behind him. Whereas Shane Brereton, 17, is still pressing on. He was a winner at Most last year. 14 behind. That is the Jose Rodriguez truck. And 37 on a bit of a mission as well there. Look, you can see that is Terry Gibbon.
And Lewis Ricciunecco in a truck sport.
Number one is Adam Lachko, who is in. He's got himself into the top 10, which is the important part of all of this. And now goes for the pit lane. So I suspect he's not going to be the only driver to bail and preserve the tyres, because it's more important that you get in, through into Superpole, and that's when the heroics come.
Yeah, they're all pulling in now.
So we had one lapping convoy out, one quick lap, and a lapping convoy back in. So now, who is best of the rest? The cut-off at 11th, currently Jose Rodriguez from Anthony Janiek. 24, heading up to the timing line, is Stefan Fasch, who is new to truck racing this year and dabbled in it really at the back end of last season, but committing to a full year here for Tankpool Ference Vansig. And Stefan Fasch goes through, but doesn't actually go any quicker on that lap. Jose Rodriguez then keeps 11th. So this currently sorting out the back of the grid, if you like, from 11th all the way back to 22nd.
Oh, squealing tyres, he's on a mission. Oh, a bit wide.
That's Luis Refuenfo, the Spanish driver. Refuenfo down now to 13th, and we're getting a penalty marker flag for Terry Gibbon, and I think he's had his lap time taken off him, because he's gone from being there or thereabouts to 22nd, and he's in the pit lane. So Terry Gibbon drops to the foot of the times. As you look at number 11, this is the rig of Andre Kurzim. This is the one in jeopardy, because he's 10th, but he is 1 point, no he's not, he is a 10th up on anybody else, just over a 10th. So if Jose Rodriguez can find a bit more time, this is the man that's on the bubble, as it were, Andre Kurzim. Kurzim defecting from Tankpool Ference Vansig to this Don't Touch Iveco team of Sven Walter, whose colours adorn Jochen Hahn's truck. Powering his way up towards the chicane then is Kurzim, but he's possibly on an improving lap, because he's done 2 personal bests.
Looks good.
He does, and he's not got that much traffic up the road that's going to get in the way either. So the former VLN racer comes up towards the timing line. So he knows his way around the Nordschleife, but now adapting to the Grand Prix circuit from a long way up in the air. Out of the Coca-Cola curve he comes. Can Kurzim go quicker than Gert Kurber? There's the checkered flag, so the session's at an end anyway. Andre Kurzim does improve. He goes 9th fastest on a 1:56.226. Andre Kurzim improves. What about anybody else to go quicker? There's only really Ryan Smith still circulating in that leading group. And Ryan Smith stays 5th fastest. So barring any penalties, we'll know what the grid is 11th back.
Times for this.
So Jochen Hahn the fastest by 0.3 of a second, as there up towards the timing line goes Eduardo Rodriguez. And Rodriguez 19th in the end. The other one that we don't seem to have had a time out of is Ollie James, because the second of the Bagheera has not given a lap time, but it might be that he's yet to take the flag. But I have a feeling that that's not going to be all that quick anyway. Ollie, who has come to the European Championship this season. Let's just confirm the top 10 then. These are the ones that will progress. Jochen Hahn's Iveco by 0.3 from René Reinert. Norbert Kish, all that hard work to get the engine put back in has worked well. He's third ahead of Steffi Halm and then Ryan Smith. Race winner already this weekend. Sasha Lentz, whose dad was in the earlier race, Heinz Werner. Sasha is 6th from Antonio Albafetti. Then class-leading Jose Rodriguez from Adam Lachko, only 9th in the end. Andre Kurzim 10th, so Rodriguez improved right at the very end. And Gert Kurber is the first of those to get knocked out. So Kurber is 11th ahead of Anthony Janiek. Then it is the Spanish driver, Luis Rezuenzo, who is 13th from Thomas Robineau. Stefan Fass, 15th from Shane Brayton. Welcome back 17th, I should say, Frankie Wojciech, whose truck caught fire rather spectacularly at Massano. 18th, it is Theo Calve, the 17-year-old, ahead of Eduardo Rodriguez, Erwin Klein-Nagelvoort, Ollie James with no time, and the same true of 37, Terry Gibbon. And Jochen Hahn's time just a 10th shy of pole time for race 1 last year. A quick word about Theo Calve as well, 18th fastest. His father, Fabien Calve, very competitive truck racer and administrator in his time, but Theo got here late last night, direct from Toulouse, where he was sitting his baccalaureate exams. So he's had to get all that out of his brain and now put truck racing in there. Number 6, all lap times cancelled for overspeeding. That is Anthony Janiek. So Janiek was 12th in the times, but he is going to tumble to the very bottom.
Wow.
And he has just tumbled. So Ollie James didn't get a lap in, Terry Gibbon didn't get a lap time in. So actually, Janiek is saved by those two miscreants, because he will go to 20th, not 22nd, at least according to my timing screen. Whether or not that's how the grid will be based, we'll have to wait and see. It might be that he gets put to the very back. So Janiek's time's cancelled, and an intriguing 10 go through into the next part of qualifying. I do like these knockout sessions. They put the pressure on people, don't they?
They certainly do. They certainly do. But overspeeding, that's not good.
No, indeed. And you would think that that would be something that teams can
Control.
make sure they don't do, yeah.
Well, they have a switch on the dash to control that. So, but that was a spectacular fire of Wojciech in. I thought the truck was going to go up completely.
Yes, indeed. It was not only a big fire, it was a big bill, wasn't it? And that on the back of a big accident at the Hungaroring, was it last season, which did a lot of damage. So Wojciech, who's been in the sport going back, it feels like 100 years. I mean, he's been in it for so long.
A long time, yeah.
If you go back to the late 80s, he was driving one of the Liat trucks, Russian-built Liats.
Yeah.
But 25 years plus. He's been part of the European truck racing scene. Right, the Super Pole session is about to get underway. We know what the 11th to 22nd qualifiers order is, and now we are good to go. Qualifying in these two parts, we have Super Pole, and this is the bit that determines the front 5 rows on the grid. So everybody is now set, ready. And at the end of this, there will be the 20 minutes or so break before we get into the Nürburgring go and stop competition. Not that the European trucks necessarily, these race trucks will be in that, but you will have some out of the Mittelrhein Cup on the basis that you hear, why not? But I think in the rarefied atmosphere of an FIA championship, it's all taken much more seriously, as you've just seen with tyre preservation. You're not going to abuse them by doing a go-stop, are you? Right, out goes Hahn. They will go in order, so Jochen Hahn goes ahead of René Reiner because they were first and second. There you've got Norbert Kisch next in the order, ahead of Steffi Halm. You've got to say, on the evidence thus far of not just today, but the season, Jochen Hahn's got to be the man most likely to get pole position, hasn't he?
Yeah, you have to say that, yeah.
So they trickle their way out onto the circuit. And there is Jochen Hahn then, the man to beat. Compared to some, the track doesn't really draw attention to itself.
No,
it's fairly anonymous compared to some liveries.
Very conservative.
Yeah, and a hodgepodge of little sponsors.
Yeah.
But Jochen Hahn has really been one of the star drivers of the European truck racing scene now for a long, long time. Had his first championship honour in 2011, won again in 2012, and again in 2013, and then he was second, and then he was third, and then he bounced back in 2016. But having started off in Mercedes, he went to MAN and then to Iveco last year. At the end of last year's equivalent session, it was 0.156 of a second that covered the top three, so it is very competitive indeed, this category. Just wondering whether we're going to have the slow bicycle race again, or whether there's a bit more energy being put in this time.
Well, there's a bit more to play for here, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Antonio Albafetti, former Formula 3000 driver, but has made a real name for himself in truck racing. Antonio driving now for Lutz Bernau's team. Ryan Smith in the background. Luke Taylor, that we saw in the earlier race, offering some sponsorship to this. And then you've got number 30 next in the queue, Sascha Lentz, who had his first breakthrough win earlier on in the season. Sascha was a very, very popular winner in Misano in the first of the two reverse grid or semi-reverse grid races, because you take your race one of the day order for the grid for race two of the day, but you reverse the top eight. So he was up near the front and scored a win. And then he had a second place in the equivalent race the day after. He's been regularly to be seen in British events over the years as well, as Sascha Lentz. Right then, here they trickle.
Trickle is the right word, yeah.
It seems bizarre, isn't it? The qualifying session is about who can be the fastest, and yet here you are looking at them at walking pace because they don't want to take too much life out of the tyres. It's Goodyear that supplies the rubber, but with 6 tyres to get you through qualifying and 2 races.
It's not a lot.
No, you need to make sure you know exactly when to use them, and this is where the master of Jochen Hahn comes into account. He's done this so many times and he knows when to push.
And he's off.
So Jochen Hahn breaks the beam onto a flying lap now, and it looks as though it's going to be just the one shot. We're getting more news about people and penalties. Ollie James has had the cancellation of 3 fastest laps from the earlier session. I think that's why they've gone missing from the timing screens. Now come through as a message to confirm that he was in grief. But we'll worry about the top 10 for the moment, because as the clock ticks on down, they're going to get time for probably 2 laps, but they'll elect only to take 1, I would suggest. And Jochen Hahn it is then, blasting his way on towards turn 4, first out. Therefore doesn't have to worry about any traffic around it. There's René Reinert with the MAN. It's about being smooth, but it's about being quick, isn't it, this? Out of the hairpin goes Reinert, up through the gears, back onto the power. Rides the curb, but not too much, so he uses as much road as he can get away with there. Behind him is Norbert Kisch, look, in number 3 in the Mercedes. So Hahn, I was about to say, will set the benchmark time, but actually Norbert Kisch is quicker within the first sector. So there is Hahn, there's Reinert, using all of the available width, but have a look at Norbert Kisch in the background. Former one-make saloon car champion. And then also Andre Kurzim looking pretty rapid. So Kurzim in the last sector could be one to watch if you can maintain that momentum. Jochen Hahn has done the absolute best in sector 2, but granted, he's always the first one to get there, and I reckon he runs a bit deep through the chicane, and so does Reinert. Reinert in the first element, Hahn in the second. That might just have undone the lap for him, only slightly. But here is Jochen Hahn. He's going to set the target time. Up he comes then towards the timing line. Is Jochen Hahn only going to get one shot at this as well? Let's see. He breaks the beam on a 154.968. René Reinert behind him will do a 155.2. And so Norbert Kisch lost out in the middle sector and goes second fastest in the end, 155.197. So Hahn good enough for pole.
Yeah, they're hitting the curbs at the Wieden chicane, and that's slowing them up, actually. They should try to be smoother through there.
Sascha Lenz goes third quickest on the same time as Norbert Kisch, and Antonio Albafetti tops the times.
Wow.
Antonio Albafetti out of nowhere comes through. 2 personals and an absolute best strung together. There he is. He goes fastest by 0.136 of a second. Antonio Albafetti takes pole position. The one that we've not yet had through is Jose Rodriguez. He goes through now 156.4. Kurzim did a 56.1.
Now, there was a surprise.
Absolutely. Adam Blatchko only 7th, also a surprise. But Antonio Albafetti then means business this weekend, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's on fire.
And you can see that having done that lap, they've all now backed out of it. So everybody now slowly back down towards the pit lane. But Antonio Albafetti then goes quicker than anybody.
But did you notice through the whole lap that virtually no tyre squeal?
Yes.
So they were all driving for smoothness and real good lines to preserve those tyres.
And although you can overtake in a racing truck, it's not that easy.
No.
So qualifying, just as it is in other categories, very important indeed.
Yeah. Well, Ryan showed that in the race earlier, didn't he? Get on pole and get away cleanly, and you can build up a lead.
So the session is still live. This isn't the in-lap. It'll turn out to be, but it's not the end of the session. But nobody is pressing on. Everybody is done.
Yeah, everybody's happy.
But an excellent job by Antonio Albafetti then, so that's going to put him on to pole position provisionally, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that translates going into the first corner tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's his first pole of the season. The last one that he had was at Harama last year, so that was on home soil, and perhaps particularly sweet to take pole position on Jochen Hahn's home turf.
Yes, yes. He will have liked that.
Yes, I mean, Jochen undoubtedly is a big draw, but to miss out on pole position by 0.136 of a second on his home circuit.
Yeah.
But they might go for another run, mightn't they, look, because they've had this slow lap. We might not be done yet. Norbert Kisch has gone speeding away. René Reinert, they're using a lot of curb.
Yeah.
They have got time for one more go.
Yeah, they're taking it.
Yeah. So yes, they've had a breather, let the tyres recover, and away they go again. So this is Hahn's second and final roll of the dice here to see whether he can get himself up ahead of Antonio Albafetti. So he's got to stay away from the curbs, hasn't he now?
Yeah. You can just feel the weight of those trucks there, can't you?
Absolutely, yes. Jochen Hahn out of turn 4 then. And we'll get an idea in a moment of how he's faring within the sectors. Green is good, purple is better. And as he gets to the end of sector 1, we'll see where it stacks up relative to his earlier lap time. Comes out of the hairpin. Did he bog down just a little bit? He uses lots of curve up on the outside of the corner. He's certainly pressing on. And again, as he bounces up the curve there at the Ravenel curve into the Bilstein curve out of that S, he's on the power. And it was slightly slower in the first sector than his earlier effort. In fact, nobody improving yet in the sectors.
Yeah.
That's Norbert Kisch, dropped to third. he's going to be the first driver to complete his second run, so this will give us an idea as to whether it can be a quicker second go. Norbert Kish comes over the timing line now, and he does a 1:55.437. The only people to improve are Jose Rodriguez 10th, but significantly, Antonio Albacete has done a personal best within the first sector. So Antonio is not done yet. Jochen Hahn, I think, might be done because he's about to come up towards the timing line, and he will come through.
And
goes quickest, a 1:54.829. It was the last sector that came good for him. René Reiner does an absolute best in the last sector and goes quicker, but Albacete with 2 personal bests now cannot afford to make a mistake in the last sector. So Kish is the one that's got mugged. Lentz has not improved in sectors 1 nor 2. And Albacete, there he is coming up to the line.
coming up.
Did he go a little bit deep coming out of the chicane? Let's see. He was slightly quicker than Hahn in the first sector, slightly slower in the second. Antonio Albacete goes across the timing line, back onto pole position on the 1:54.805. He's done it by 24 thousandths of a second. How close can you get it? 24 thousandths of a second is the margin between the top 2 at the end of Superpole. Wow.
Wow. In 5-ton trucks.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's insane, isn't it? So, if you look down your nose on truck racing and think, oh, it's a silly sport, far from it. It is very competitive, and there is further proof of it. I mean, these are proper teams, and it's a great mix in terms of the entry, because you've got Jochen Hahn, who specialises in trucks, versus Antonio Albacete, who came out of Formula 3, Formula 3000, Spanish touring cars for many a manufacturer, including Opel and BMW and Alfa Romeo, and is a 3 times champion. So you've got evidence of people making the switch from cars into trucks, going up against people like Hahn, like René Reiner, who's a haulage contractor by trade, admittedly on a big scale, but you know, these are people that live and breathe trucks.
Yeah.
And yet they're separated by thousandths of a second.
24,000. Yeah.
The top 7, all within 7 tenths.
Yeah.
The 7th being a rather subdued Adam Lachko, bit disappointing.
Yeah. That is surprising. He was saying in Hungary that he was suffering a little bit, and they were looking at doing a different setup. So.
But Adam was Mr. Nürburgring last year, wasn't he? He won all 3 races. So big disappointment for the Bagheera racing squad with a Freightliner. Adam on the verge of a 50th win as well. If he can score that this weekend, that would tip the numbers. So let's just confirm the top 10 at the end of Superpole. Antonio Albacete it is then by 24 thousandths of a second from Jochen Hahn, the championship leader. René Reiner, 3rd ahead of Norbert Kish. 5th, Sascha Lentz, again showing good pace ahead of Steffi Helm. 7th, slightly subdued Adam Lachko. 8th, Ryan Smith, adapting from one MAN to another because he's raced one rig and qualified a separate one here. He's 8th, quickest ahead of Andre Kurzim, who is 9th, and Jose Rodriguez rounds out the top 10. So it's been a fascinating qualifying session and so competitive. That run to turn 1 tomorrow for the first race is going to be very important indeed, isn't it?
Very, very interesting, I feel.
And so tomorrow they will race for their first encounter at 10:55. Green flag that will get underway. 11 o'clock the lights will go out on the first race, so 11 o'clock in the morning for them. There will be a warm-up session for the European trucks at 8:30. The live stream tomorrow will be in business at 9 o'clock because we've got not only trucks but cars this weekend. There's quite a nice assortment of GT4 cars from the Central European Cup, and we'll cover qualifying as well as the 2 races for those cars as well. So tomorrow we'll start with the GT4s. We'll bring you the second Mittelrhein Cup qualifying session as well, which will be for their 3rd race, and then we'll get into racing at around about 11 o'clock with the European rigs. Then we'll have GT4 followed by the second European truck race and the Mittelrhein Cup to round out tomorrow. For now, it's not totally finished on the track, but largely, because what we will have next only uses the pit straight, and in about 20 minutes time or so we will get the go and stop underway, which promises to be very entertaining indeed. Stay with us on the live stream here for the ADAC Truck Grand Prix, this event that stretches back over 25 years now, has been a huge part of the German motorsport landscape and a huge and a very important part of the Nürburgring for a long time too.
Yeah. And don't forget the party tonight and tomorrow night.
Are we invited?
I don't think so.
I was going to go buy my cowboy
But it
hat.
really is a true family affair. This the Germans come in their droves. I mean, nearly 200,000 this weekend, and it's wives and kids and everyone, and barbecues and music, and it's just like the 24-hour. They build their little enclosures or big enclosures, and they've all got their trucks, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of private trucks and haulage trucks, all parked up with their tents and barbecues and sound systems. So it'll be a good night for all of those.
Indeed, it's a very, very popular weekend, and like you say, it attracts families. Everybody's here, young and old. The paddock is a real showcase for the truck manufacturers as well. It's hard to come out of there without a bag of giveaways by the look of it. Everyone seems to be benefiting, and then also Goodyear making a big presence here as well, because just as we have in, say, saloon or GT racing, so the same is true in truck racing. If you're winning on the track, it's all good.
Yeah, and if you look at the tribunes here, you'll see they're absolutely jam-packed full.
Yes, indeed.
And there's even stuff for the kids. There's face painting, there's kindergarten, there's places on the boulevard, so it caters for everyone. And of course you can get breakfast and 50-centimetre sausage.
It's all good for the healthy kick, isn't it?
It's all good for the health, yeah.
And there's the most amazing array of trade stalls just where we are in the boulevard opposite the pits. You go outside and yes, you can go and buy models, and you can go and buy the event merchandise, and you can go and buy Aussie hats, you can go and buy American cowboy boots. I've not yet seen anybody actually buying a truck, but I'm sure you can somewhere here.
Yeah.
But they're all doing a roaring trade. And as the drivers then now make their way from the qualifying session, we will get ready shortly for this go and stop competition, which promises to be very entertaining indeed. Do stay with us. But this weekend of racing, as I say, not just trucks, but the GT4 cars as well. The entry perhaps not vast, but it's going to be interesting enough to give some good variety over the 2 1-hour races with these mandatory pit stops that we will have.
Yeah, and the Maseratis seem to favour this track over Misano and Hungaroring. They are definitely faster here, which is probably down to the straights, I imagine, and just sheer grunt and horsepower.
Yes, I'll go along with that. That's certainly true.
And they sound lovely.
They do make a very good noise, yes, yes. So you've got, I know we're looking ahead to tomorrow, but you've got Audi, you've got KTM, you've got Porsche, you've got Maserati. It's only a, 13 strong entry, but there's enough, as we saw in free practice earlier on, to certainly provide 2 good races over the course of this weekend. One tomorrow, one on Sunday.
Yeah. And the lead woman, Marilyn, she was setting really good times in her KTM. So.
Yes, Marilyn Niederhauser, third in the first practice session. Cora Schumacher, the ex-wife of Ralf Schumacher, was a little bit slower at the foot of the times in the Mercedes. The majority of cars being shared, but 1 or 2 also with soloists.
Yeah, there's an R8 with us, solo, Ivan Vlachkov. He's driving solo, so he'll just come in and park up for the stop in the middle. He's in a Sin. And you don't see many of those. In fact, apparently that's the only one in the world. It's the only, it's the only R1.
Right, okay. I thought there were more, but one was annihilated at the Red Bull Ring, wasn't it, a few years ago, that huge accident in the last corner. I'm glad we've got one of them. It's good to know we are not without sin, as it were.
Is that a biblical quote?
So yeah, the GT4 races promise to be very good indeed. Gasia Radest, the Polish lady, fastest in FP1 in the car that she shares with Oscar Tunho. I think it was Oscar's time, in fairness. Lennart Marianec, one of the Reiter Young stars, sharing with David Clark, second quickest in FP1. Marilyn Niederhauser and Mads Siljehaug, another of the Reiter Young stars, third quickest. Anyway, that's to look forward to tomorrow. So on the pit straight at the moment, there is calm and there is tranquility. That'll soon change, because the professionals and the AMs will be getting ready very shortly, and they will be brought forward ready for this go-stop competition that will take us to the end of day one of the ADAC Truck Grand Prix.
Yeah. They'll be setting out all the cones for the twin streams of trucks for the stop-go. So we'll...
And also the timekeeper is on his way down, I can see, to
yeah.
put his little timing beam in place.
Yeah.
But the go-stop or go-and-stop competitions have always been a feature of major truck Grand Prix. They still have them at Le Mans, for example, at the October event there. And we'll get to the competition very shortly. So it's going to be the professionals that will go first. They'll get a practice run, and then we will be in business for the timed runs. And as far as we are informed, as far as the professionals are concerned, it's going to be the fastest 8 to go into the quarterfinals, the fastest 4 into the semis, and then there'll be the final, and then you get a winner. They only run tonight, so the pressure is on. Whereas for the AMs, depending on how many rock up, we'll go from what could be 50 down to 16. Now, whether we go then into the 8 tonight or we carry the 8 into the winner tomorrow, we'll have to discover. There's a separate go and stop competition tomorrow, penciled in for an hour and a half, and if you've just got 8 to shoot out, that's going to be a lot to fill an hour and a half with. So I suspect we might end up getting down to the top 16 and staying there this evening, but we shall see. It's fluid, this, you know. So amongst those that are going to be taking part in the professional element, all being well, John Powell, that we saw racing earlier on. James Aikenhead Sisu was on the entry, but he was missing from the entry for the races, so I think we may have lost him. Evan Klein-Nagelvoort, now he was out of the European competition. He's in this entry as well, but we might get 1 or 2 surprises. Dave Jenkins and Kay Sandberg and Heinz-Werner Lentz all in the entry. So the track is being swept for the moment, and then when everybody is happy, then the trucks will be brought forward.